Hi, Matt Stait here again from the Festival of Martial Arts. And today I've got with me Barney. Hi, Barney, how are you?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, my friend. Thanks for coming along. So I start these conversations the same way every time. So for those that may not have met you before, can you give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Barney and I run ISCA AFC, and we are an armored combat club. So we do full contact competitive fights in armor with steel weapons. I've been doing this since about 2016, and we started down in Exeter, but now we pretty much cover the southwest of England.
Okay, right, fabulous. So when we talk about that, do we? So we're essentially talking about how people would recognize that would be medieval knights in armor.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly that. If you've ever seen in Hollywood tournaments and that sort of thing, that is, we've taken the medieval rules of tournaments and brought it into the modern era, essentially. So it's steel armor, steel weapons, full contact.
Okay,
Very,
and that's and so this is different from HEMA in the sense that it's full contact.
yes and no.
Okay.
So the thing you've got to think about is what the term full contact means. In HEMA, you might not be seeing people wind up for massive strikes, but they are emulating hitting someone with a 4 foot long sharp sword, which doesn't take a lot of. You don't want to hit people hard with a sharp sword
Hmm.
because you're stuck. Well, it takes us a little tap to kill someone with a 4 foot long razor blade. The what I'd say, how I explain the real difference is HEMA study martial art manuals of the past,
Right.
whereas take part in a combat sport from the past.
Okay. Yeah.
So HEMA is they'll literally study the manuals of how people fought to kill, fought in duels, and all of this, whereas we have taken the actual sporting combat and brought it forward. So even in the medieval rules, you couldn't thrust. There was weapons regulations. A lot of them used wooden maces and the like. So we are purely a combat sport. Um,
Right.
so we can't thrust. HEMA thrusts. They are looking to emulate and revive the old ways of fighting, whereas we are
Yeah.
bringing sport into a modern context.
Right. Okay. You know, that's actually a really good way to frame it because that makes sense. As in, there's in a sort of martial historical traditional discipline, but then there's also a sporting combat side of it in the same way that martial arts today has similar trajectories for people.
Throughout history, there's always been that split. You'll see it in the old fight manuals people talk about, and you'll see it in modern day. We'll
Mm.
talk about sports karate not being the real karate, or sports and real Brazilian jiu-jitsu is something I see a lot. People talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu, or this isn't whatever. But
Yeah.
we are the combat sports side of it, of how men at arms in peacetime prove their mettle or earn a living.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with this then, this as a combat sport, and for those that have not seen this before, it's actually growing in popularity and getting bigger all of the time. I mean, you've got proper championships and proper events now. It's not a small thing anymore. I mean, it's televised and everything, isn't it? So so how does it work in regards to the rule systems and what are the sort of structures?
Okay, so the structure of it is in the UK, we have a governing body, Medieval Combat Sports Association, Great Britain. It's a registered charity, and that kind of runs the overarching policy. And then it goes down to individual clubs scattered around the UK that generate their membership and put teams out. As far as the rules, there's quite a few different disciplines that we go through. So there's dueling, which is one versus one, and it's a blade craft exercise. There's different weapon setups in it: sword and shield, longsword, pole arms, and sword and buckler. And that is fought to score points with your blade. The next one versus one category is pro fights, and that's MMA in armor essentially.
Right.
You can punch, kick, sword strikes, shield punches, headbutt them, take them down, ground and pound, all of that sort of business. And it's if you watch MMA, you'll be familiar with the setup for like three rounds at different times for different levels of fighting, and that is scored by clean hits and our 10 point must system, essentially, depending on the rule set that you use. But then the real heart of the sport for me is called Bohurt, and that's a group fight. So we're looking at 5 versus 5, 12 versus 12, 30 versus 30 at bigger events. And how that works is historical rule set, and you are out of the fight when you get put on the floor. So that's any third point contact. Because historically, a man in armor on the floor was a dead man. And they usually gave up at that point and got taken hostage. So that's how they trained themselves for warfare, was to get another man in armor on the floor. And that's what we follow now. So we get into an arena and we fight until one team's left standing.
Yeah, and it is genuinely a spectacle to behold that. I mean, I got involved myself for a while a number of years ago and had a go at it. And the two things that struck me, number one, it is incredibly tough to keep moving like that in full armor. I don't think people appreciate it. When you see it on the movies and they're running around in full armor and stuff, and you're like, oh, that looks okay. I don't think people realize how tough and challenging physically that is. But also the fact that in that sort of Bohut scenario, in that melee sort of moment, you've just no idea what's going on. It's but there's got to be tactics and structure to it. So as a team player, as a team member, how do you look to formulate your plans for that, if you like?
So there's some regular things you've got to look at. So we'll talk about 5 versus 5 because that's the real core of the sport. You tend to have your baseline men across the field. You need to have your flanks secure, blokes on the list, because if there's any spaces there, people get around behind you, you get charged from behind, blindsided, your teeth rattle, and then you're on the floor seeing the sky. So you've got to have your secured, then you'll have a man next to him supporting him, putting in some heavy strikes. And then I tend to be a middle player. I'm in the middle of the field, keeping that secure. And some people like to try and shoot and break around the back. I tend to kind of lock down that middle field, keep it all secure, let the guys on the flank do the work. And we're known as more of a slow, grindy sort of fight strategy in the UK, whereas some other countries are a bit more chaotic.
So who are the big players at the moment then on the world stage? Because I know that the Russians have always been very well renowned for this.
Yeah, so the international scene has been shaken up a bit with recent events with the war in Ukraine. So we won't really be seeing any Russians anytime soon. And all the Ukrainian men are obviously doing much more important things. So that really does limit the playing field because they were biggest players. But at the moment, I think the UK is incredibly strong. America is looking very strong at the moment. The French are always there and always some of our favourite people to fight, as is historically our nature. And see, there's out in Eastern Europe, there's many teams that are all good, strong players. But the World Cup coming up in in about a month's time, and I think some of the strongest players there will be ourselves, the Americans. And there's a few other quite strong contenders out there.
No, fantastic. So you're coming to the festival, which is fantastic news. I'm really excited to have you there and to see that. So what are you planning on sort of bringing with you, and what are you planning on doing when you come?
So we'll do some displays of some 1 versus 1 stuff, probably pro fights, because to me that's the most exciting. I like the chaos of it. I'll be doing some pro fights there with someone. We'll have a few women along doing the same. And then in addition to that, we'll have some training opportunities going on. So obviously, as you said, wearing the full steel is quite exhausting, especially wearing it all day. We don't regularly train in the steel. We have soft kit. So think like padded suits you might be familiar with, like tackle suits or red man suits, stuff like that. And we have padded swords and helmets similar to Screamer. And that's how we train. So we'll have some kit like that with us and have an opportunity for people to get involved and see how our techniques are built and how we've adapted a lot more of the modern combat sport techniques to it.
Oh, fantastic. So will people be able to say try a helmet on, that sort of thing as well?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we'll have it all set out with all of our kit. And as I'm sure it's familiar to you, we are all absolute nerds for what we love, and just be careful talking to us because we won't stop.
Yeah, well, again, it's one of those where when I had a go at it, and I'll just sort of tell this story very, very quickly. I went to this medieval sort of reenactment festival thing, and there was lots of HEMA chaps there, and it was all great, and they reenacted this battle. And then in the middle, they brought out sort of 10 or so people that were in this really battered armor, and they're like, this is sort of the interlude, and these guys are going to go for it, right? And they started knocking the heck out of each other, and then the one grabbed the other guy and started headbutting. And the guy on the tannoy went, don't worry, guys, it's perfectly legal in this sport. And I thought, I've got to have a go at this. It's bonkers. But what I found is exactly what you said. Everyone was like super friendly, really, really nice. but all a bit bonkers, right? But in a lovely way, right? And very keen on what they did. So, so yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys there, and I know that you'll bring a lot of fun to the table for people, and I definitely recommend that the people have a go in the soft kit and really sort of have a play with that, because it's great fun. So in the meantime, I'm hoping that some people watching this are going to want to speak to you before we get to the festival. So how can they contact you?
So you can find ISCA AFC on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the social media platforms. If you're outside of the Southwest, I'll ask you to contact Medieval Combat Sports Association, because then they can give you a map and show you all the local clubs throughout the country. We're all the way down from Plymouth up to Glasgow. They'll be somewhere near-ish you. It is a niche sport, but they'll be somewhere nearby, and we can put you in contact with someone who will be desperate to help you.
Fantastic. And where is it that your club is based?
So we cover the Southwest. We've got chapters in Hereford, Bristol, Bridgewater, and Plymouth at the moment, but we've got memberships scattered throughout the Southwest as well.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, Barney, thank you ever so much for coming on, chatting today, and really looking forward to seeing it at the festival, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited to be there.
Cheers, buddy. Bye-bye.
Very much. See you later.